I just wasn't comfortable working somewhere where I just be an asset, something that you could just, toss away in an instant.
What's up, everyone? Shaquille Mahjoudi here for CBS Sports, and you know who this is. He is All Elite Wrestling's newest signee. He's already caught me slipping with my terrible promos once, so I'll spare him from having to sit through it again. Take two with the walking weapon, Josh Alexander. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. The intro was awesome. How can you do
Yeah,
that?
we do our best.
Yeah.
Running a little late into my day, a little bit on fumes, but I'm so happy we get to do this. Also, fun fact, I was just looking back to make sure this was true. The first interview I ever did on this YouTube channel when I was with Cage Side Seats was with Josh Alexander, TNA Impact superstar at the time. Now you're with AEW. I'm here with CBS Sports. It's nice to link up once again. First things first, before we talk about everything you're doing off the heels of your AEW debut, do people with two first names get a bad rep?
You're referring to Josh Alexander?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. I feel like it's a thing that's like a conversation piece. I know somebody, I used to work with somebody that has three names. His name's Michael Brian Allen. And
Ooh.
it used to be just like a conversation starter. But yeah, I don't really put much weight to it. So
Okay. I was told never to trust a man with two first names, but
I mean, the way things are going in AEW, it might be true.
I was about to say, let's talk a little bit about that. You spoke to Busted Open Radio about how you were kind of hoping that when you made this transition to AEW, that maybe you'd get a chance to link up with Don Callas. And you talked about sort of starting your run with the promotion as a heel. Can you tell me why it is that being a heel is maybe a little bit easier of an introduction into a new pro wrestling environment?
Well,
Or
for
more
somebody,
comfortable, at least, for you?
yeah, it's more comfort than easier because I
Mhm.
don't think anything we do is easy because you're dealing with live crowds all the time. But, luckily I've had 20 years experience building up to this point where I've debuted in AEW. So, I've been in front of all sorts and sizes of crowds along the way. And I've always found that, it's much easier to be hated than it is to be liked. Like, especially for somebody like me, like for me to be, I was the top babyface in TNA. Like I was the guy there, and it took years of work to kind of solidify myself in that because I'm not a flashy gimmick. You know what I mean? My
Mhm.
character is not over the top. That's something that's going to go viral and connect. I really connect with fans through what I do in the ring and the hard work and the perseverance and all the other things that I exemplify through my career, my matches. So for me, it's just an easier path to travel coming in as a heel, establishing that work ethic that I have and the kind of Josh Alexander that you're going to see in the ring because I am treating it like I'm in front of all new fans, even though, a lot of them might be familiar with me already.
The Don Callis family has gone through a few iterations during its time in AEW, but really with, I think, the consistency that the group has been presented on television over the last few months, I feel like we're really starting to get a sense of what the vision for the future is. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like behind the scenes working with the creative process and the stable that's starting to become more and more and more of a threatening presence on AEW television?
I mean, I think the threat is just exemplified with the people that are in the group, right? You
Mhm.
have Konosuke Takeshita, who, has had a great run in AEW all over the world, with several different companies all at the same time, just showing that he is one of the best wrestlers in the world and he's going to be one, for years to come. And same thing with somebody like Kyle Fletcher, who, coming off the heels of Aussie Open being, labeled a tag team guy, something I'm very familiar with as well. You're just itching to prove yourself, and he got some opportunities. He made the best of them, and now, he's one of the top, pro wrestlers in the world and AEW. So bringing me in, putting me beside those two, and then beside, Lance Archer, now Roppongi Vice, formerly
Mhm.
Roppongi Vice, and just making the group that much bigger and solidifying everybody within it. And then having somebody like Don Callis, who, for better or for worse, is the most hated, entity, I think, in all of AEW, at least to the live crowds, which makes things fun and easy. But, I think that we've shown that, there's a collection of talent there that is unmatched by any other group within the company. So.
How do you feel about the current momentum of AEW? For me, as for the outside looking in, it's sort of an interesting game of scales where upon its debut, the online, at least the online reaction and fever around AEW was so high, and you kind of had WWE here, and then it feels like it kind of might have leveled out, and now I feel like we're playing a bit of a seesaw game where you're seeing guys like Ricochet come over from WWE, have so much success. You have some people from AEW going there. It feels like it was really weighted one way, might have started getting weighted the other way, and now I feel like we're kind of settling into a nice groove. How good did it feel to come into AEW when you did?
It felt great. It's something that I've been thinking about for a very long time. I said it on a different interview, but when I heard rumblings of this company starting before, there was ever any letters or name put to it, and I reached out to some people that I was familiar with that I thought might be a part of it. I got confirmation that this thing was probably going to happen, and I threw my name in the hat and said, would there be any opportunities for this Canadian up here? And I was told at the time, not right now. There's no answers. And that's when the TNA thing came along. But, from the very, before the inception of this company, it was something I wanted to be a part of because like this was the counter product. I grew up in like my extreme fandom was in the Monday Night Wars. It was WCW versus WWF or WWE now. And for me, it was just the most exciting time in all of pro wrestling history. Being able to pick and choose what I enjoyed and stuff. And there was some stuff I liked on WWF programming. Like I was a big Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. He was the one that kind of got me into wrestling and gave me that bug. But once I discovered WCW, the guys like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho, and the list goes on, like this kind of different style of pro wrestling than I'd ever seen. I gravitated towards that. And I think AEW, is offering a different presentation of pro wrestling than WWE does. So, the scales will tip and fall back and forth here and there. And I don't think, one's going to pull away forever and one's going to go away. I just think that these companies are here to stay for a very long time. And
I hope so.
I chose AEW because I like to be part of that counter product. I like to be a different type of presentation of pro wrestling, and I think that the collection of talent that we have in this company is unmatched. I don't care what company you're talking about. Like the best in-ring wrestling talent in the world is in this company, and that's why I wanted to be here.
Being such a WCW fan, is it a bit of a trip sharing a locker room with Chris Jericho now?
Chris Jericho, Tony Schiavone, like when I did Collision last week, and Tony was talking about how like that was like. I think it was like 40 years or something, or 30 years to the day of like the TBS Saturday Night Wrestling when he called it and stuff like that. And just to be a part of that, like for me, like it's just like talking to my inner child being like, I don't believe that you're here and doing this stuff. And it's just like, it makes it all roses for me.
People have been waiting for your transition from TNA to one of these larger North American promotions for a really long time now. And obviously when we see you make your debut and you see that graphic, you're going to get various opinions from people sitting on the couch. Should have gone here. Great choice with AEW. To the degree that you're willing to share, what were some of the factors that made the AEW offer more alluring than whatever WWE might have had on the table?
I mean, I read all the criticism and all the speculation on why I made my choice and stuff, but from the second I met Tony Khan during the COVID era in TNA, like he was coming to shows because there was a working relationship there, and that's when I first met him. And I got this impression that when you, as a boss, he's somebody that actually cares for his employees. You're not just a number. You're not just an asset to the company. He actually cares about you. And that's something that means a great deal to me. In working for Scott D'Amore in TNA, I developed a relationship with him, and there's a lot of trust that goes into this stuff. So I just wasn't comfortable working somewhere where I'd just be an asset, something that you could just, toss away in an instant and stuff like that. I wanted somebody that's going to care about me and care about like the fact that I have a family that I'm feeding and that I do have such a passion for this. And I hope we share that passion and stuff like that. So it's that this locker room is full of people that I've known and worked with over the past 20 years and I've developed relationships with. And it's because, there's people like Edge, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega in this company that I have never wrestled, that I've dreamed of wrestling for decades. So that all made it very easy for me to make my decision.
This is I always like having this conversation with like anyone sort of pursuing an odd or unlikely career path. For you, how do you balance the sort of singular selfish pursuit of wanting to be a pro wrestler with, like you said, something that is really important to you, and that is your family? Like, how do you sort of weigh those scales of doing what's in maybe your best interest, doing what's in your family's best interest? Because you see some people like refuse to have kids because they don't want to have to answer to anyone but their calling.
Well, I'm very lucky that I live in 2025 because I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I could have done this in the 90s before, cell phones were prevalent, before you had FaceTime and stuff like that. Because I don't miss a lot of moments. I'm there a lot in person, but like if I'm not there in person, like my son had a piano recital this past Saturday, his first one. I had to miss it to be at Collision, but I got to watch it live on FaceTime. So it was like I was
Mm-hmm.
there and experiencing it. I'm
Nice.
lucky because my sons, they're big fans of what I do. And my wife,
Nice.
also in the business for the past 25 years, she has an understanding for the passion I have for this and what you have to sacrifice, to further yourself and then also put food on the table. So it's all pretty easy. Luckily, there are bumps along the road, but the sacrifices I think that I make will just show my both my sons that if you have a dream and you follow it, you know the most important thing is that you just go and do what makes you happy, and that's what I'm doing
Mm.
because it just makes life that much better for everybody.
Do you ever hide anything under the ear pads of your wrestling headgear?
I mean, I have not yet, but you're giving me ideas, so.
Okay, good. Well, the ears are looking good, so you've avoided the cauliflower ears that seem to plague most people in your line of work. A couple TNA related questions, if I may. Why didn't we see a crossover with Ethan Page during the NXT sort of TNA collaboration?
There was rumblings of two that I'd heard about after the fact that were denied by management for, whatever political reason there was, of me not wanting to lose, or not me want them not wanting me to lose or something like that.
Mm.
And then there was one offer on the table for me to do like a big run and then like wrestle for the title on a pay-per-view or a stand and deliver, I think it was.
Hmm.
And I had actually turned that down because it just didn't fit with what my goals were coming into, contract time and stuff like that with negotiations coming up.
I've only been able to like ask this question to people who are currently in NXT or TNA, so I am curious to get the opinion of someone who sort of no longer has those, I guess, company obligations or ties. What did you make of that talent trade that has been happening and is still happening? Was it mutually beneficial?
I think from my perspective, I can't speak for everybody in the locker room, at times mutually beneficial for sure. I mean, when you put somebody like Joe Hendry or anybody else on a
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday night NXT and they come back to TNA, you obviously saw more interest come to the company because of that platform that they were on. But in terms of like wins and losses and trading back and forth, it felt like it was pretty heavy towards, the WWE end from time to time. So, but that's just the
Fair enough.
business portion of it. They have a bigger platform. So,
What are some of the bucket list goals now that you're in AEW?
Edge, Jericho, and Kenny Omega, working with them in some capacity. I feel like right now Edge and Jericho should be prioritized because I don't know how much longer they're going to wrestle for. Brian Danielson was number one on that list, but it looks like he's very happy, being retired, which I totally understand because health is all important and everything like that. But the bucket list thing is like matches and programs with guys like that, guys that I've looked up to for a very long time, and guys that I know that I can learn from to better myself in my career moving forward. So.
Now, I know the circumstances have changed a bit, but the last time we spoke, you had the FTR match pretty high on the list. Is that something we'd like to get done now that we're all under the same roof?
Yeah, now that I have a new tag team partner in Kenosa
Mhm.
Takeshita that I've kind of been toiling around on Dynamite with, I think that would be a marquee matchup to put on a pay-per-view or something like that one day. So I would, jump at the opportunity.
I'd love to see it. On the way out here, I always put out a Q&A on subreddit, and by far the most upvoted question was absolutely stupid one, but I do have to. It was stupid enough that I'm like, let's run with it. So I've modified this a bit. What I have for you, Josh Alexander, are 5 new nicknames and gimmicks.
Oh my
You're
God.
not going to like any of them. And we're
Oh
going to
no.
get you to blind rank these. So I'll give you the first one. You can place it 1 being your favorite of the bunch, 5 being your least favorite. You may want to hedge your bets, though, because you don't know what's coming next, all right?
Okay.
Okay, first we have competitive speed walker Josh Alexander, the speed walking weapon.
I mean, it's not so bad, not very offensive. So I'll put that right in the middle of three to start off.
Okay, a Michael Jackson Thriller-inspired gimmick, the moonwalking weapon.
Ooh, I kind of like that. I'm a big fan of Thriller. Let's do two.
Okay, zombie Josh Alexander, The Walking Dead.
That's got to win. I mean, I got to pick that for one. I don't know what's
Okay,
coming next, but yeah.
I think that might have been the responsible decision. I'm thinking of a Festus-esque gimmick where you only wrestle while asleep, the sleepwalking weapon, Josh Alexander. You got 4 and 5 left.
I'll put that at five. Yeah.
All right, so by default, your number 4, I think you did a pretty good job, was senior citizen, the walking cane, Josh Alexander.
All right. Number four by default, but yeah, I
Okay,
think I made it
nice.
all right there.
I've seen people do far far worse. So kudos to you. The ring IQ is serving you well even in this platform. Josh, I want to let you have the last word. So very quickly for me, guys, thanks so much for watching. Tap subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let us know what is your Josh Alexander dream match now that the walking weapon is all elite. Mr. Alexander, if there's anything you want to tell the people on the way out, the floor is yours, my friend.
Just tune in to AEW Dynamite Wednesday night, Collision Saturday night, and keep an eye out for Josh Alexander and the Don Callas family.